do you think all people are greedy?
I think all people are at some level selfish because most humans, if not all, are inherently selfish when boiled down to the absolute limits.
Imagine having direct access to someone who's navigated life's toughest terrains and come out stronger. Someone who's been there, done that, and can guide you with empathy, experience, and honesty. This isn't just advice. It's a lifeline, a strategy session, a chance to learn from my journey so you can accelerate yours. Without the ability to be self-aware and introspective, the ability for you to get to where you want to go, nearly impossible. Hey everybody, welcome back to the David Guttman podcast. If you find my content useful, please like and subscribe, really appreciate it. So I have a really fascinating guest today, Brandon Bowsky. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a real pleasure. We only met a few days ago, and then while we're talking, like within 5 minutes of meeting each other, we got a whole bunch of people in common. You know, Nick and Monsi, Tristan back in Miami. So I was like, and when I started to hear your story, I'm like, man, I got to have you on the podcast.
Well, I appreciate you having me, man. It's always fun to chat with really smart people that have had a lot of success themselves. So thanks for having me.
Well, so yeah, and you're only 33? 33 years old. So maybe just let's talk a little bit about how you got the entrepreneurial bug in the first place. What did your folks do? Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, so I grew up in a family of salespeople. My grandfather was always in sales, who raised me for a lot of my life. My mother was also in sales and then in hospitality. And so naturally, my entire life, I was either in sales or hospitality. And I got my first job at a restaurant when I was like 15, actually at my buddy's aunt's restaurant, like a good buddy of mine. The only person I know that did more revenue in a year than me in this space I was in that was also privately held. His aunt was my first job.
Okay.
Terrible woman. Like I'm talking, I burnt my hand on a pizza oven, had like a yellow bubble out to here, and she was like, get back to work. And I was like, okay. And I was at like 15 years old. I was busting and serving. And then I would always have entrepreneurial ideas. I mean, I dropped out of school at 15. I grew up in a single parent household. At 15 years old, I was a junior and a half in high school, so I could have done some summer stuff or extra stuff and graduated, but also had med school credits, college credits. And one day I walked in my AP Psych teacher, and the guy was horrible. Like, I mean, didn't even know his own material. It's like, how are you an AP professor if you don't even know the stuff you're teaching? And class would get really mad at me anytime I was like, hey, you're actually wrong. And I'm definitely that guy who's like, hey, something's wrong here. And they would yell at me, and he would yell at me. And I'd be like, all right, well, hey, at least I'm going to tell the people that care what the real information is. And one day he goes, you already know everything. You should just quit school. And I was like, good idea. I don't show up anyway.
Right.
So I decided to go and convince my grandfather that I would do virtual school. And he was like, oh, okay, sounds great. Technology, that makes sense. And I did that for 2 days. So that was my way of dropping out before you could drop out, which was cool. And then...
Well, hold on. So you grew up in a single family with your mom?
Yeah, mom,
okay.
Yeah. Never met my dad.
Yeah, okay. So, and what did your mom do? She said she was in sales and hospitality.
Yeah.
Did you grow up middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class?
Lower middle class.
Okay.
My grandfather lived in a poor area of a rich neighborhood.
Okay.
And worked his ass off, but spent every dollar taking care of the people he cared about.
Got it.
He was the type of guy that would make 200 and spend 201, but make sure that he gave 20 to charity. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But heart of gold, most amazing guy, hardest working guy. Like I grew up around the most tireless work ethic ever. And also the nicest, most generous man. Like he makes me look like an asshole and a lazy fuck.
Okay.
Because he would wake up at like 7 a.m., drink his coffee, go into his home office, and just get on the phone and start selling stuff, whatever it was. And then when he had offices, which he would sometimes open companies and have offices, sometimes he'd be doing it from home himself.
Right.
You know, I got to watch that, and I would go to his offices, and whether he was managing it, owning it, whatever it was, you get to see kind of how a business operates. And at a young age, I was kind of just in there like, huh. Like I remember my first ever like quote unquote job, I was like 8 years old, and I was organizing his Rolodex. And then my second job, I was like 13, and I was cold calling for one of his companies, and I would call people, and I had a really high-pitched voice back then.
Right.
And I would call people, and I would be like, hi, this is Brandon calling from da-da-da-da. I'm calling about your extended car's warranty. I'm one of those guys,
Right.
not really, but and they would be like, no, ma'am, we're not interested. And I'd be like, it's sir. Like, I can't even hit the highs anymore. But that was really like my first sales job, was getting rejected a million times and just trying to get people to get on the phone with somebody to talk about something. And not only getting rejected, but being accused of being a woman. Now, in 2025, that's fucking normal.
Right.
But back then, it was not.
There, you were being misgendered. You could.
Yeah, I should probably go back and sue.
Yeah. Have a hate speech. Well, so 15, high school dropout. Work for your grandpa for 2 days. Now what? And you're still living at home with your mom, I assume.
No, I was living with my grandparents.
Oh, living with your
I
grandpa.
lived with my mother probably a third of my childhood.
Got it. Okay.
Just didn't really get along. My stepdad and I, he was not really the greatest guy. And
Got it.
my siblings are great. They're awesome. Youngest sister is going to law school. Older younger sister is like a very chill, minimalist.
Right.
Like just wants to go work her 9-to-5 job and vibe.
Right.
My little brother could have went pro punting. He still could if he wants, like if he really tries, but really hard worker, heart of gold, super sweet kid, a little soft, but super sweet.
Right.
And yeah, so I was
So you're living with your grandpa. You're living with your grandfather. You quit after 2 days working for him. So
well, I didn't quit. It just it wasn't working.
Okay, it wasn't working.
I was burning his leads.
Got
Yeah, man wasn't working.
Yeah, okay. So you're still living with him. So you at least got a place to live. But
Yeah.
But what are you doing for like? How are you spending your day at 15?
Man, I played a lot of video games.
Okay.
I played a lot of RuneScape, and then eventually played a lot of World of Warcraft, and got top 10 in WoW in the PvE world, which is player versus environment, like basically non-player versus player.
Mm-hmm.
And then on RuneScape, had some accolades. It was a big name on that. And then kind of just always had ideas in the background of like stuff. And over the time, I would try the ideas and they wouldn't work. And I would make money online. Like I didn't have a problem making enough money to buy the few things that I wanted. But I also would make a lot of money online and then gamble most of it away playing games online because I didn't understand the value of money because I grew up poor. So I didn't know that having $100,000 worth of currency in a game was enough money to change my life.
Right.
I just knew I had a lot of money on a game. And I knew what it was worth in real life, but I didn't have any type of correlation to what that really bought you.
So
Like,
what taught you? What was the thing that happened that allowed you to understand that connection?
I think it was when I had well over $100,000 in game currency that I could have liquidated. And instead I tried gambling with and lost all of it full tilt in like 5 minutes. And then I started looking at like what it was worth and what you could buy with that afterwards. And I was like, I'm an idiot. And then I started actually liquidating the gold as I would make it. And then that was an income stream. And then also, occasionally maybe smoke some weed a little bit and had to afford that. And sometimes affording that made some extra money too.
Right.
But as a kid.
And so you're doing that for 15 to what age?
Probably like 19.
Okay.
I was just video games all day. But at 17, I was probably 265 pounds. Never stepped foot in a gym. I was super athletic till I was 12, had a knee surgery, got fat, which is why I skipped a bunch of grades because I just didn't really like getting bullied.
Right.
I was always athletic, smart, witty kid. So going from that to being a kid getting bullied, I was like, fuck this. And then I thought high school was going to be better. And I was like, oh, now I'm just young and have no friends. Cool.
Right.
But around 19, my grandfather got cancer. And then I didn't really know how to process that because you don't understand mortality at that age. Unless you faced it already,
Right.
you really don't. And I hadn't had anybody die. So I was just like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do with myself. Like what could happen here? And I kind of got really depressed at first. And I was always listening to electronic music when I would game way back. And so I started going to like a bunch of raves and I was just partying, honestly, just like get away from that. I would literally get $20 from him or $100 that I'd make one week or something like that, just randomly online and be like, okay, cool. I can just take this and go couch surf and I'll make some money on the road for a couple days and, I'll come back. And then that would turn into me being gone for like 3 weeks, coming back after like a long bender and being like, okay, good, he's still alive.
Right.
And I burned through my savings. I invested in some like events that the guys literally just pocketed the money. I was just young and dumb.
Right.
And then eventually he got better. And when he got better, I had a promotion company with some friends where we had a lot of street promoters. And I had the best racket in the world, which was that I lived very far from them and I had no car. So I didn't have a way to deliver the tickets until show day, as well as the money. And, look, I was a legit guy. They knew they were going to get paid, so that was cool. And so I would wait till the shows were going to sell out, those ones that I knew were going to sell out. And I would be like, I need 500 tickets, and I would give 400 to promoters, or I need 200 tickets, give 100 to promoters, whatever it was, whatever they would give me. And when it sold out, I would sell them for double face. And then I would make like 5 to 10 grand just off of selling those tickets for double face. Sometimes triple face. Right. It would be like 18-year-old kids pulling up in their dad's Bentley to buy tickets for me. And I'm like, $300, brother. He's like, man, they're 55. I'm like, they're sold out.
Right.
So that was like a racket. And I would do that pretty much every other month while I was DJing and producing music, which I got into just kind of because I thought most DJs sucked. And then over time, got into management, had a partner that screwed me over there, put a bunch of our artists' money up his nose.
Hold on, you're skipping way too fast.
No, this is all in this is all in that 19 to 22.
Where did you learn to DJ?
Oh, so I knew a kid at the time who was like maybe 16, and he was from, I don't remember, maybe Ecuador, El Salvador, Honduras. He was Honduran. Really nice kid. And he had a CDJ set up, basically a bunch of turntables.
Right.
And I was like, okay, young kid, I know him. He doesn't have any followers. He has turntables. So I would go down to Broward, take a train down, make my way over to him. Usually the way that I navigated, there was no Uber. So I would just have people that I knew from music and be like, hey, you want to pick me up and come hang out over here? And people were like, okay. At the time, when you start being somebody, whether you have the promotion team or whatever it is, people are like, oh yeah, I want to hang out with that guy. And so I used to bum so many rides. I mean, dude, there are people that I still run into that are like, man, last time I saw you was 15 years ago giving you a ride or whatever the hell it was. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. Kid with a backpack that just traveled for a few weeks on end and barely consumed food. And I just was in his living room and I just taught myself to DJ pretty quickly. And then I would start to play like small local shows. And then I played some shows around the country for a few years on and off. And I would take breaks. And then, had a partner in an artist management company that just totally...
What kind of management company?
Artist management.
Okay.
So we basically partnered with a dude who then deleted one of his own creators, his own artist, SoundCloud, which was the platform for streaming at the time and hosting music. And then he ended up getting like 5 times the followers because everyone talked about it. He's a good friend of mine, this dude, Brandon, great guy. And so, awesome dude, still love you. We ended up talking to him and then a bunch of other guys, and we're like, hey, you guys should come over to our management company. And everyone that we talked to said yes because everyone wanted management. And there was a dude that we passed on that's now like the biggest artist in all of dubstep pretty much. This dude, Subtronics. That was a huge miss, but it was, nobody had any followers at the time. And you look at him and you're like, music's not really polished. Eric Silver did a really good job with him. He was a manager later. Right. But partner ended up, we always had ideas. We'll start there. It was like, we're going to buy a tour bus. We're going to save the money and buy a tour bus. And then we're going to make money by routing a tour. We'll put a bunch of our artists on it and we'll make a great killing. A great killing at the time was ludicrous. It was like, oh yeah, we'll make 150 grand and get to split it, but we're in music, so that's good.
Right.
It's like, you look at the real world, what the hell were we thinking?
Yeah.
And that happened for a lot of years after that. Like, tried starting a debt settlement company, but then I got to the point where I was like, how do you generate leads? And I had no idea. And I kind of understood marketing, but I didn't really have the work ethic to go and figure out how to do it. So I was like, I'll just call people out of the phone book, like type thing. We didn't actually do that. It just ended up not working. And that happened with a few other businesses. And I realized over time that you really have to have all the pieces, but you also have to have a real plan. And back then I was just like most kids are, where you have an idea and you're like, this idea is going to make me money. And then you don't really go to the next step. You just have the idea and then you try to do one of the steps, but you don't have the rest covered and it fails. Yep. And I did that probably 20 times. And I remember a really impactful conversation. A buddy of mine who was a DJ, he ended up getting into porn and so did his girlfriend. And they met through that, I believe. And then they both started stripping. So he was a male stripper and she was a female stripper. Okay. They were both very smart people, very talented musician, very smart person, cool people, hung out all the time. And I remember one time we were in the car and she was talking about how she wanted to buy like a Christmas gift and she was going to get like her parents a TV. And I was like, oh, there's this way that you can get TVs essentially for free. You can like buy 2, get 1 free or buy 1, get 1 free if you do this thing. And she was like, I don't need your Jew tricks. And I was just like, I was just trying to be nice. Right. And she was like, you should really go to school though. Like you're really smart and you do nothing and all your ideas seem to fail. So you should just go to school. And fast forward, she's still broke. So I think maybe that would have been great advice. But that was a really meaningful conversation. And I started to analyze why everything failed after that point. And I, had a business where I would fix computers while working in restaurants. So after my grandfather got cancer, I just went back to restaurants and doing music for fun. And I would just fix computers. So I chose to work at a fast casual restaurant instead of like fine dining, big money, high volume, slaving away, 8 to 12 hour days. And I would bring in like $300 a day. So I'm making $1,000 a week, which in 2011, 12, 13 wasn't terrible money, but it wasn't good money.
Right.
But I would give out business cards to every single old person that came there because it was a deli. And it was all old people. And just, hey, if anything ever breaks, you need help with your TV, your computer, viruses, this, that, you name it, network, fine. And I would just come over, fix their stuff, hang out with them, and charge them a lot of money. But I would charge them a lot to get in and out. And so I had a breakup, and my mother, my stepfather stole all of my mother's money. I had to give her all the money I had saved. Terrible story. She ends up saying, let's move to South Carolina. And I went through a breakup and was like, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. And I was doing medical sales at the time. And I was like, I have this deal that's going to close. I'm going to make $400,000 a year from it. Great. And so we move up there. Deal does close. We get paid $38,000 1 month, never again. And I'm like, okay, so I'm poor. So I worked for 8 months for nothing. Great. And I'm up in South Carolina, North Carolina border by Charlotte. And I'm working at a Red Robin. And I thought bartending at Red Robin would be like making craft cocktails, but it was actually just making milkshakes. And I was like, I'm a milkshake maker for $70 a shift. What did I do to myself? Like, how am I here?
How old are you at this point?
I had to be 24, maybe 23, 23. And so I'm in a place I don't recognize. I have very little of my stuff because I got rid of most of my stuff. So I sold all my synths. I packed up my car basically into my Honda Civic and was like, we're going. And while I was up there, I was like, this is terrible. My buddy Justin calls me. He goes, I have this idea for a subscription box. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, festival subscription for apparel and accessories. And I was like, okay. And Coachella was starting to become a thing people talked about. And it was like, all right, you know what? This could be a good idea. So we had a website made, did all this stuff, poured everything we had into it for 8 months. And I went to my last show I ever played, which was Detroit, Michigan in 2015. And it was in, I think, April or May. I got matching tattoos at it with a couple buddies, actually. And while we're there, we go to the after party. And I'm like, okay, cool. What's everybody doing here? And there's a bunch of ketamine and nitrous. And I'm like, I don't do that.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, it's not useful. I only do psychedelics. I only do them exploratively. I don't like getting fucked up. I don't drink heavily. These just aren't for me. And they were like, you're a DJ that doesn't do drugs? And I was like, yeah, listen, if somebody had some DMT, I would happily do it. But I don't think anybody's going to walk around and just have DMT. And this random guy's like, oh, no, he has DMT. And I'm like, oh, cool. So he comes over, he's talking to me. And I'm like, hey, man, Zell wasn't around. I didn't get paid from the show. I don't get paid till tomorrow. Would you be willing to just front me the $20? I'll give it to you tomorrow. He's like, no. And I was like, okay, I will let you hold my ID so I can't fly. And he was like, no. And then I was just bummed. 30 minutes later, he comes over. He's like, yeah, you look like you could use it. Hands me the DMT. So there's actually this is a full circle story. I got halfway through telling Brady about it. So I go into this workshop room with rusted nails and planks and boards and benches. It was disgusting. And I sit in a corner that looks like I'm not going to get hepatitis. And I'm like, okay, cool. So a little crackhead, I'm smoking the DMT. And I'm like, okay, I just need to know, do I move back to Florida and pursue this business or do I stay here? And I'm trying to meditate on that thought. And I'm now standing in a platform. And there are all these pillars. It's a circular platform, bunch of pillars. And I'm this big. There's this giant ball of glowing yellow light in different shapes, kind of like a bunch of circles chained together. And it's pulsating. And I'm like, cool, help me. Tell me what to do. I wake up, I get mad. I'm like, didn't get anything out of that. That's crazy. I just wanted to know if I should move back to Florida. And I felt immediately convicted that I should. And I was like, okay, sounds good to me. So move back to Florida, get a place with those two friends of mine, get a job at a nice high-end restaurant there, and then start running a nightclub there. And we go to launch. And I think we got 500,000. It was a crazy number, 500,000 views on our promo video with $500 in ad budget. Just every relationship I had, knocked on every door, asked for every favor. We got 17 sales. And I was like, all right, we're out of business. And they were like, no, we're not. And I'm like, no, we are. We need to take whatever we have, pay back anybody we've borrowed money from, and just walk away. And they're like, no, we're going to make it work. And I'm like, I'm telling you, you're not. And so we had a handshake deal, and the deal ended up being, look, I don't want anything. I'll take 10% of the company, and I'll still be involved if you want. and you guys can continue to run with it, but I own nothing. And they were like, okay, fine. And they failed. And then my buddy ended up, drinking a lot, wrapped his car around a tree. She was like throwing his stuff off a balcony. It was crazy. So I was like, I gotta get out of here. This is
a couple.
Yeah, it's a couple. My best friends and I did this business together, and I'm largely why they got together. Like I kind of put that together for them a year or two before. And business just did not work. And so I ended up living in my car. And I left my nightclub job to go work at a call center, and the call center was just doing some stuff that I didn't really agree with. So I left and was like, okay, what do I do now? And so I started consulting and helping call centers stand up their operations. So I was doing everything from dialers, CRMs, sales, scripting, training, all this stuff.
How did you know all that stuff?
It's just innate. I mean, like I worked at one call center and was like, this is pretty easy.
Right.
I pick up information pretty quickly when I want to learn. So I was like, okay, cool. Every week or two, though, I'd have to be looking for a new gig because I was good at it, which meant that they only paid me a little while. And I could have stretched it out, but that's not my nature.
Right.
My nature is like it was in the computer repair business. Get in, make them money, make them happy, get out. And so I was like, all right, this isn't working. And I finally find a stable gig. And I'm driving all the way to Sunrise, Florida every single day. And the guy was awesome. His daughter and I are still friends. And his merchant account got frozen after like 2 months. And he couldn't pay anybody. And I was like, there's no way I'm back to this. And at the time, I was dating a girl who had a room rental the size of these two couches pushed together.
Okay.
And I would sneak in there. And the guy would be like, I'm renting to 1, not 2. And would like kick me out.
Right.
And then I would sneak back in again another time. And it was crazy. It was just crazy to even look back and think that's what my life was. But, sometimes you shower there, shower Planet Fitness. It was like actually that bad. And somebody calls me and goes, get an insurance license and sell Medicare. And I was like, what's the money like? And he goes, well, $50K your first year. By year 5, you're making $250. And I was like, dude, I've never made under 80 grand in a year in my life since I was like 17. There's no shot that I'm going to work for 50 grand a year and slave away in an office. And after like 2 more weeks of being broke, I went into a Walmart and I grabbed a multi-grain roll because I didn't have really much money to buy food and I was hungry. Right. And I was like, all right, cool. A seed got stuck in my wisdom tooth and it was just hitting this nerve and I'm just tearing for days. Like the pain was numb at that point. Because it's just like excruciating, but I can't even feel it. I just am tearing all day. And I had no money. And my mother, got a care credit card for me as a favor and I paid her back pretty quick. But ended up getting wisdom tooth out and was like, I can't do this. So I took my red Civic 2-door, traded it for a 4-door white one, and told myself, you got 45 days grace period to make a payment. If you can't make a payment and this car gets repoed, you're killing yourself. Wow. And so I said, I'll Uber. So I did 3 Uber rides, and then that lasted very long. First Uber ride, guy did not believe in deodorant. He was a working guy, like construction or something, and the guy did not wear deodorant. It was terrible. He also wanted the window down. And I was like, okay, that's not cool. It's hot as hell in Florida, and it's humid. Second guy, Indian guy, also did not believe in deodorant. He wanted the window up. In that moment, I wanted the windows down. And then the third ride was these freaking frat kids from like FAU or something, or wherever they were from. And they were like, hey, take us to this bar in Las Olas. Cool, no problem. I picked them up from a barbershop. The guy left his card. So they're like, hey, can you run us back there? We'll give you $20. And to me, I'm like, $20, what a deal. Yeah, absolutely. So I drive them back, 20-minute detour, maybe 30, and they take forever inside to get the card. It was a weird deal. They walk into the bar, and I'm like, yo, $20. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're not doing that.
Oh, man.
And I walk into the bar and I'm like, yo, you don't understand. I will kill you over this $20. And the bouncer sees the situation. I'm like, yeah, I'll kill your friend too. Like,
right.
I will fuck both of you up over this $20 right now. So just put that in perspective to where I am now or where I've been and then that. And the bouncer kicks me out. I'm like, my car is parked in the middle of the fucking road with the hazards on, like still running. And so I get back in my car and I'm like, all right, fuck this. So I decide I'm going to try the insurance thing because you can't help other people if you can't help yourself, can't help family, all this stuff. So I was like, okay. So I go get a license in like 7 days, took the test on the 6th, get license on the 7th. Okay, great. And I go, what else can I do with this thing? So I found health insurance. First company I worked for literally scammed me. They were a massive company and they would just rip people off and not pay anybody properly. But I had a really good tracking system. So I would call back to clients and be like, hey, did you cancel? what happened? I thought we had a really good plan selected. No, I didn't cancel. And it's like, oh, okay. And I was noticing 3 out of every 5 cancels were not actually canceled. And I'm like, how do these guys have a jet, a bunch of nice cars, and they managed to mess this up? So I kind of called them out on it. They were like, we would never do that. How much do you think you're owed? I'm like, you guys owe me like $5,000. And they were like, we'll give you $2,500. And I'm like, oh my God, this is real life. So I took that money, got a place with my then girlfriend, a tiny room rental, maybe the size of this whole area,
Right.
in like the ghetto. And I grew up in shitty areas, so I was like, all right, this is fine, whatever. I was the only white kid there. I'll be the only white kid here. That's
Right.
fine. And everything was okay, but I had to go find another job. And I remember buying an air fryer because it was so cool for like $200 when they first came out, and then having to return it because I needed the $200. It was like that level. And the next job I worked at, my checks were always right. I was making a few grand a week. Just one week it was like $7,800, and I was like, oh, this is great. And I didn't talk to anybody. I showed up. I talked to a couple of the other guys that were good, but it was like 38 people. I didn't talk to anybody. I just showed up, worked 60 hours a week, took some freaking diet pills to stay energized, and grinded it out. And a lot of people were like, dude, how do you compartmentalize like that? And I was like, I have no idea. But what I can tell you is nothing good will come of staying in a negative place. And if you allow the outside world to negatively impact your work life, your outside life isn't going to get any better, because the only thing that can change it oftentimes is money. You have money problems and real problems, but money can sometimes solve the real problems too, or at least make them easier to deal with. So I was like, this is just what I'm going to do. And a couple months in, I saved like, maybe 3 months in, saved like $40,000. And I was like, okay, great. I can go start a business now. And I go to do that. And I tell one of the guys that I'm going to do
How
that.
old are you at this point?
24.
Okay.
I'm going to be 25 shortly after. And the guy says, dude, that's so awesome, blah, blah, blah. The owners of the company, they say, hey, we want to get into a bigger space. We need a manager to help us grow. Who should we do? And the guy goes, oh, get the yellow headset kid. So, because I had a gaming headset.
Right.
And they were like, nah, we heard he's leaving. And they're like, why don't you get him to stay? So they bring me in the room, and they're like, you want to be a manager? I said, what's that like? They said, well, you just tell people what to do. Like, you tell them, what would you do? I'm like, oh, that's cool. I could do that. That sounds fun. And he's like, yeah, you don't have to do any work. And I was like, oh my God. Step Brothers is in my head. There's so much room for activities. And then I did more work than I could have ever imagined. And we grew the company from 38 people to, including some offshore, 380 in 15 months. And everything was group, everything was process oriented. I had good hires, we had good culture. And my job at the end of it was like show up for 3 hours and make everybody happy. So I would like walk in and just be like rapping, like freestyle rapping to the receptionists and the customer service people, make them happy because they make the least. Then I would go talk to the salespeople, be a therapist. I had another manager there that was also like a therapist. And everything went really well. And then one day I worked on this project to build a new product. And I said, hey, we're going to make an extra $2 million just in the last quarter alone on this. I've already made you guys like 6. It'd be cool if I could have a $200,000 raise. And they were like, we'll give you 100. And I lost my mind. I like fully lost it. It was like, you have 30 days notice. And I borrowed $350,000 from the guy I built the product with, started my own thing, and then made 2.1 net in 90 days, but almost went broke doing it because I didn't understand what a cash crunch was. And so I'm growing, reinvesting every dollar, grow higher. And then we're 1 week away from the biggest week of the year, which is where you make all your money. It's our Super Bowl, the end of open enrollment. And I realized—
Is it Medicare Advantage kind of thing?
this was in health insurance.
Okay.
Same concept though.
Yeah.
But I realize I don't have the money. I can't continue to do this. I can't pay my bills from last week. So I call all my vendors and I'm like, hey guys, my card got stolen and I really need the points. Do you mind giving me a week? And they're like, you're good for it. You've been doing this forever. No problem. Go to my employees. Oh my God, we had like a bank issue. Like, give me a few days. I'll pay you guys midweek next week. And it worked. 1.5-ish, 1.48 came in and netted 900. And I was like, okay, we're good now. And then that ended up being 2.1 in that few months, and kind of wanted to figure out what the next thing was because now I have this well-oiled machine. And I wanted to buy a Rolex to celebrate. And my girlfriend at the time, not the same one, different one, was very wealthy and very frugal. And she said, if you go buy that watch, we're going to have a problem. And I was like, but I worked really hard.
Right.
I made $1 million in like a week. What do you mean? And she's like, no, save your money. And I did. I had a $400,000 house. I had, an M5 that was leased. I did like everything conservative. Most guys, we used to call them the Ferrari boys. They would make their first $1 million, go buy a Ferrari, rent an expensive house, and try to bang hot girls. Right. Me, I was like, I'm going to keep my head down, keep working, save my money. But I wanted this $35,000 watch. And she said no. So I was like, well, if I make the money on the side, how bad could it be? Like, how mad could you get? And so I started this marketing company where I was downselling leads that our agents were hanging up on or they weren't qualified. And that became $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. And then one week it was $108,000. And I was like, oh my God, this is a real company. And then COVID happens and everything is not doing well. Nobody's buying anything because the government's like, well, we'll take care of you. And so when that happens, I'm like, crap. And this was also around the first time I got an M&A lesson. I did not know what a company was worth. My old company was not doing so well. And they came to me and said, hey, would you like to come and help train our people? And I was like, what are you going to pay me? And they were like $5,000 an hour. I was like, done. Just kind of like an FU.
Right.
So I show up on Wednesdays. I'm training their people, trying to make them better, all this stuff. And they're like, why don't we get back together? And I was like, that'd be awesome. I love you guys. So we get this big office, 20,000 square foot office that we had previously. And we're expanding into it again. Everything's great, all this good stuff. Actually, we went next door. And huge office, everything's good. COVID happens, and we're like, oh no, we're screwed. And I had sold them the equity in my company based on 67% of what I thought I would have earned that year. No multiple, no proper valuation. The companies were so much more. And their company was worth nothing because it was not doing well.
Right.
And I didn't know any better. And then I made another dumb decision. When the company wasn't doing well, I kept reinvesting my personal money that they had paid me because I felt bad because I knew them. So the money they gave me, we burned through. Had I just stayed in my initial office, I would have been fine, weathered the storm. But because we went really big and then market shifted, boom. So the marketing company, though, was doing just fine. And we had a Medicare agency in the background. And one day I get a call when I'm visiting Hawaii and I'm thinking about moving there. And this guy goes, hey, do you know anybody with a Medicare agency for sale? And I was like, actually, yeah, because my partner's stealing from me and I would love to get out of it. Right. I found out that one of the 4 partners was stealing from us. It was over $1 million a year. It was a lot of theft. And I had put $750 in, so did one of the other partners. Another one put in $5. Like, a lot of money to be stolen from after, like, we're trying to get our money back. And the guy's like, yeah, well, you got to talk to this guy. And I knew the guy. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I fly back to Florida. We meet up. They're like, yeah, we want to move fast on this. And it was backed by Bain Capital. And I was like, oh, my God. Great, cool. It was the fastest M&A transaction ever. It was like so quick because they knew exactly what they wanted to do with the business. They just needed an active agency with policies, procedures that did it right, that had it all dialed, and they just came and took it over. And it was really quick. It was like 2 months, 3 months, fastest. Quick. It was so fast. I was like, oh my God, this is real. So the marketing company's doing well. I have insurance residuals, and I'm like, I'm retiring. I'm taking a break. So I go to Hawaii, and I was doing Muay Thai, hiking, surfing every day. Life was good. And then one day, the guy calls me, he goes, yo, are you going to this conference? I'm like, I'm kind of out. I don't really care to go. He's like, no, you should go. And I was like, my girlfriend in Hawaii is trying to bleach my hair so she can dye it colors right now. And he was like, dude, you should dye it the color of our company's logo. And I'm like, yeah, why not? So I dye my hair light blue. And I go to this conference.
Please tell me you have a picture of this somewhere.
Oh, tons.
Okay.
I mean, I had blue hair for like 2.5 years. None of my friends were honest enough to tell me it didn't look good. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? No wonder I'm still single. Yeah, I was like, no wonder I'm not married yet. I have fucking blue hair. I'm a conservative with blue hair. What the fuck's going on here? And I did have a girlfriend for most of that time, though. She was great. She still works for me, actually. Way overqualified for her job, but she's really good at it. And so I go to the conference, and I get COVID, and I almost die. So you have to imagine, I'm one of the healthiest states I've ever been in my life. Like I said, really active. I go get COVID, I almost die. So I fly back to my house in Florida, and I'm like, I'm just going to hunker down here. I have the flu. 2 weeks later, I still have the flu. A third week later, I still have the flu. So I get an IV, and the guy's in a rush, so he uses one of those pressure bags, and my body wasn't absorbing it. And what they say is that it ended up going to my lungs, and I got pneumonia. Damn. So I go to the hospital. I find out I have COVID and pneumonia. And I'm laying in a hospital bed.
You're lucky you survived.
Dude, I can't walk to you at this point without leaning up against a wall and taking like 30 shallow breaths. It was bad. I really thought I was going to die. Like, it was at a point where a buddy of mine was like, hey, you heard of these monoclonal antibodies?
Right.
And I was like, no, what's that? And he's like, well, I can get somebody to come down there and just like covertly do this. And I was like, please, if I'm not better tomorrow, do it. And I did get better the next day. But what happened was I was laying in bed and I'm half dead. and I'm getting blown up by all these different people and I don't want to do business with. And I noticed that the company still made money. Everyone still got paid. They still did their jobs. And most people would consider that success as a business owner because I didn't have to be there and the company still ran. I looked at it as a failure. I was like, oh my God, they don't even need me anymore. I'm worthless. And I had this existential crisis, spent 4 days on the phone with my therapist, did a ton of like lung rehab and got back really healthy really fast and was like, okay, I got to get back to work. And then a few months later, I woke up in my girlfriend's New York apartment that was a bedroom was like the size of this, going back in time.
Yeah.
And I woke up in a cold sweat before a flight and was like, I got to go back to making a lot of money, and I'm not realizing my potential. And so we grew the company from $5.5 million in rev with good margins to 12.5 in a matter of 3 months, maintaining the same margins, actually getting a little better. And then from 12.5 to 55, and the year after that, we did 9 figures combined with the companies.
Which company is this?
This is a marketing company that I had.
Okay.
And along the way, though, around that time, this is the full circle story that Brady didn't get to finish. I go to Barcelona for a conference as we're growing from 12 to 55.
Right.
And I'm trying to rebrand the company name because the company's name was like a side hustle, like BS name. I wanted like a real name that people would remember. And so I go to Rome, and we had a 23-hour and 48-day layover before we went to Greece. Or 23-hour, 58 minutes. Sorry, okay. Jesus.
Yeah.
23-hour, 58-minute layover. What that meant, though, is that our bags didn't come off the plane because it wasn't for 24 hours.
Huh.
So I get stuck in Rome with no clothes, and I'm sweating my ass off in the summer in Rome.
Right.
And we're doing Rome in a day, and we don't even have time to stop and buy clothes because we'll miss all the activities we booked, like all the history and all the cool stuff. So my buddy and I just like weather the storm. And then we get to Greece, and we saw the temples of, this like desecrated area dedicated to Minerva. And I was like, oh, Minerva marketing, that would sound cool. And then we go to Greece, and I'm in Greece. We go to Acropolis, a bunch of temples there. And there's a temple dedicated to Athena and Nike. And I'm like, why would Athena, such a prominent goddess, which is Minerva in Roman versus Greek, why would she share a temple? So I look it up, and I'm like, oh no, she has her own temple in Delphi. And this Delphinian temple is the only temple, there was one dedicated to Heracles, but the only temple that was circular. And I look at it, and it's got no ceiling anymore, obviously. I look at it, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the temple for my DMT trip. So it's like 3 a.m. Back home time. And I blow everybody's phones up, and I'm like, guys, the name's Minerva Marketing. And they're like, no, we don't like it. And I'm like, usually I run this like a socialist country.
Right.
It's my company, my name, here's why. And everyone was like, okay, yeah, we're down. And the company fully exploded after that. Mm. And, knowledge, wisdom, strategy is the representation of that goddess. The DMT trip, the platform with the columns, all of it kind of aligned. And I was like, oh yeah, this is what I was supposed to do. And I'm glad that I did it. And then that's kind of bringing us back to where we are today, only a year and a half past that.
Now, are you still running this agency now?
No. So we unfortunately got dragged into a lawsuit. It was literally over nothing. Got dismissed from it a year later. Bunch of false allegations, but ended up completely killing a very, very large exit, a massive year that I would have had in profit. And then I never got paid by anybody. Got stiffed for $5 million. Had to pay out vendors over time. Personal pockets. Still haven't even collected. I'm just starting to sue people and collect money from that. And I've been like, kind of took 6 months and was depressed. Then I got into doing a little bit more consulting, a little bit more helping people scale their offers online. And then kind of just danced around different industries. And I had some AI tech stuff that I built in the past. So, just selling that a little bit. And then I've got some new AI tech stuff being built now that's really exciting. But it's really just been like, what do I want to do with my life? And I landed on my favorite thing, which is just giving people advice and helping them. But I've done it for free for so many years. Like I do a free Discord call every Wednesday where I just give people free advice. And the problem with that is that I have made a lot of people very wealthy. I've had people come back to me and be like, hey man, that advice you gave me took me from 3 million to 9 million in EBITDA, and I just sold the company for 40 million. And I'm like, cool. A point of that would have been cool. Just something, just a thank you.
Right.
And they give you like the attaboy kind of thank you. And that wasn't very helpful to me. So I realized that what I like to do is help people grow, scale, sell, whatever it is they want to do.
Right.
And that's kind of the next chapter for me, is doing more of that. But very high ticket with large businesses that are already doing 5, 10, 20 million a year at least. and kind of helping them get to the next level from everything that I've learned doing what I've done, generating over $1 billion in sales, over $7 billion in insurance premium, a couple $100 million to my companies. So that's kind of the next chapter.
So you have, I think you have a decent amount of experience, if I remember correctly, doing sort of info products, courses, things like that. Maybe talk a little bit about that and kind of like, I know that area is really booming right now.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I accidentally made an info product teaching people how to do a specific thing on RuneScape back in 2009. And I didn't know it was an info product because that wasn't a thing back then, but I sold a guide on how to do a thing and we made like 50 grand, my partner and I. My partner now he's the head of my media. He's a great friend of mine, my oldest, longest standing friendship. And after that, I kind of understood it. And then a couple years later, when I was building a finance company to give commission advances to agencies, I was like, well, I need agencies. And I was like, I don't want people with bad habits. Let me get people that don't have bad habits. So I ran a kind of webinar. It happened by accident. This guy was talking shit to me on the internet saying nobody would pay 25 grand an hour for consulting. And I'm like, you'd be surprised how many people have paid me 25 grand an hour for consulting. And he was like, there's no way. I was the digital marketing expert 3 years in a row for my county. And I'm like, oh God, I'll tell you what, I'll talk to you for an hour for free. If you don't feel like you got enough value, come back here and talk shit. You were going to do that anyway. But if you did, come back and apologize. This was in a business group that I had like 20,000 people in it. Everybody's like, I want to be there. 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 I'm like, fuck it. We'll do it next Thursday on my weekly call, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. And the guy's like, well, I can't make it. And I'm like, still doing it. I'll send you the recording, bud. So I have like 500, 600 people signed up for it. And I'm like, wait a second. I've got 48 hours. I could turn this into a pitch. So I turned it into a pitch to work with my other company. And that webinar made $43 million over the next 6 months from just an accidental webinar.
So you charge for access to the webinar or sales after the webinar?
So the sale was work with me, start an insurance agency, and 43 million wasn't net, of course.
Right.
But start an insurance agency where I had an override. I was the one providing the leads. And then I also had some money from the financing. So I had 3 different pockets I could dip from on one deal. And the startup cost to them, they didn't pay me a thing. They just had to have enough money to start the agency. But we had 640 people join. 440 was the concurrent average. And we ended up with like 186 signups. We whittled it down to 112 that were qualified and then picked 12 of those that we talked to. I think maybe we talked to 15, but we picked 12. And after that, I was like, oh, cool. I like this model. So I did it for affiliates for my AI tech company, which was a conversational AI company. It's still around, obviously, V-Agents. It was the first conversational generative voice product out in the market. And started it before ChatGPT. It was originally for insurance, but then I was like, oh, we could be the everything product now that LLMs exist. And I reached out to a guy, really good friend of mine, this guy, Eddie Malouf, brilliant dude, bad marketing, great company, amazing agency.
Oh, yeah, he lives in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, awesome guy.
Yeah, I know Nick and Monty talk about him all the time.
Yeah, dude, Eddie's great.
Yeah.
And he gave me all this free advice, but it wasn't really advice. It was more insight. I was like, hey, in the group chat that we're all in, does anybody have experience doing webinars? And he goes, yeah, we do about 30 million a year. I was like, perfect. Can you give me an idea of what like a BizOp webinar registration would cost? And he was like, yeah, like 15, 16 bucks would be good. I was like, okay, what should the show ups be like? And gives me all the data, totally unsolicited, really nice guy. So I go run it. I'm at $3.38 a sign up. And I'm like, oh, okay. If the guy doing this 30 million a year is telling me $15 is a good number and I'm at $3, I might want to be in this industry.
Right.
And at this point, I'm just dealing with all this stuff. I'm pretty depressed. And that was a quick win, but we had the time zone set wrong. My VP of marketing at the time was in Australia. So he set the time zone for 9 Pacific and not 9 Eastern. So, or whatever it was. So I do it and then I get like 900 people on it. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't a lot, whatever. And then 3 hours later, I'm getting hundreds and hundreds. I think it ended up being like 1,000 emails of like, what happened to the call? So I send them all out. We get, 400 people that applied to be affiliates, whatever. Didn't really generate a ton of revenue, but it was a cool experience to do it. And then over time, I started finding more people in info that were really bad at ads, but they did well organically. And so I would give them advice. And eventually they'd be like, can you just help me with this? So a division of my company became a new company, let's help people out with scaling their info products and just take a piece of equity or a piece of profit, depending on if there's value. there's no value. The only reason we would take equity is to protect ourselves, which we still get screwed. I mean, I had a guy I've known for 5 years make probably $500,000 off leads we generated, and we secret shopped him to wonder why there was no revenue. And he told the guy, send the check to another company, like that type of stuff. That's the type of people you deal with in the info space. So I realized I didn't want to do that. And then I had another info product, which was how to generate pay-per-call leads, which are just phone calls on the internet, which we were very good at. And I did a 21-person call while I was driving to look at really expensive rentals in LA, like 60 to 150K. And I just wanted to be rich in LA and see what it was like. I don't know. It was a stupid idea, but I had a lot of friends in LA, and we got a townhouse together, and I was like, I can't live with these people. I need to get my own place. This is crazy. I have 4 houses. I need a 5th. Makes sense. So I'm like, cool. Driving. I'm losing signal. The call was terrible, but at the end, I got 18 out of 21 people to buy, and it paid for the entire rental. And I was like, oh, cool. But of those 18, only like 5 were successful, and that made me upset. So I stopped selling it because a lot of people just weren't cut out for it. And I took their money because they wanted to learn. But if I would have said no to their money, I wouldn't have made enough to justify doing it. So it was a really weird situation. And like one of the guys that wasn't successful, I was like, hey, dude, you can stay at my place in Vail when you propose to your girlfriend. Like I've made it right with everybody I could within reason that really tried. But a lot of people didn't even try. And then I realized like most people that buy courses don't do anything. And I was like, that's terrible.
I think it's like 80%.
It's over 90, dude.
Is it?
I've seen on thousands of buyers on particular programs, over 93% on some of them don't even open the course, let alone try to complete it. Completion rates are like 3%. Implementation's probably lower. It's crazy on a lot of these programs.
Interesting.
And people spend a lot of money to do nothing. And that really upsets me. And then I was like, well, let me teach people how to do lead gen as a business. And I sold that for $50,000 with 6 months of mentorship. And they could pretty much just request a chat whenever. That was cool, but people still weren't doing the work. And I would give them everything, and they still wouldn't do the work. And I was like, I don't want to be the face of something where I can't guarantee their success, which is why I decided for myself I would rather do the consulting stuff. But scaling other people's info products is remarkably easy because all you have to do is start with whatever it is they want solved, the outcome that they want, the problem they have, or if they don't have one, you create one. So they have a problem, they want an outcome, and you have to explain how quickly and how your product will bridge the gap. So you get their attention, you talk about the outcome they want, talk about the problem they're having, or inverse, depending on the offer. And then you explain how quickly they're going to get the outcome, and then take them through some type of CTA, whether the funnel is to book a call or it's to buy something or whatever it might be. That's the formula. It's really remarkably simple. And people try to like make it this mystical thing. It's really not that hard. Webinars have more going into them. VSLs have more going into them. But just an ad to book a call or to fill out a form is remarkably easy. But a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. And they're not good at copywriting. And they don't understand how to position their offer. And that's where most fail. Like good offers die because of bad positioning. You could have the best thing, but people don't understand it. And if they don't understand it, they can't buy it.
So you basically have a consulting company now, effectively, right?
Yeah, that's the main thing. I mean, I have 5 tech companies, and then I've got a bunch of info products that I own pieces of through this consulting company. But, we have like criteria. We're not going to work with somebody if they're not legitimate. They have to actually provide a service that adds value or have a product that adds value. The thing has to actually work. Like, we're not going to just work with somebody for the sake of money. I mean, we had a guy we were doing $300K a month with, and he was monopolizing way too much of my COO's time. And I literally fired the dude. I was like, hey, $100, you can buy back the equity. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, there has to be some monetary consideration. You can have it back. $300K a month, we just walked away from it because the guy was so difficult to work with. And he's a really nice guy, and I like the guy, but terrible to work with.
Right.
So we started to realize more and more of these people are not fun to work with, and they're not appreciative. I mean, a massive creator stiffs me every single month and tries to find ways not to pay me. And she's a household name. Like, people know her. And deliberately goes out of her way to cook the books. I mean, I have receipts for all of it, but it's it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
Why do you think that is?
I think people have an inflated sense of self-worth and value, and the value that they contribute initially is being the face, and then they co-design or build a product, and then they think of everything as theirs because it's their face. But the reality is the marketing ideas, the funnels, the sequences of email and follow-up outreach, text messages, the sales team, all these things are not them. The marketing is really not them. The offer itself is not them, but they think of it as them because it's their face. So they believe they are the value prop. when in reality, they're likely to be the least valuable part of the equation. Their knowledge may be valuable, and likely is if we're working with them, but they have this thought of like, I should be making all this money. And it happens in business all the time. It's why a lot of partnerships fail. Well, this guy's not doing as much work as I'm doing. I should be making more money. I'm going to kick him out. I'm going to screw him. I'm going to start a new company. We see it all the time.
Yep.
And it's people believing that they can do it themselves. They can do it for cheaper. You know, oh, it's dialed in now. I can just find somebody else. And people just do shady stuff. I had another guy. We had a company that was running great, doing really good numbers. And we had a bad month. And he goes and starts selling on the side, but trying to use our fulfillment. And one of the guys catches it and is like, yo, don't do this. He's going to sue you. And he goes, oh, yeah, you're right. I'll stop. It was a bad idea. I just needed some money to take care of some stuff, my family, blah, blah, blah. Nobody told me. And then I get another call. Hey, I got to tell you something from one of the other partners. And he's like, here's what's happening. And I was like, okay, cool. Cloned the company in 7 days. Told him, hey, I'm not going to sue you, but we're done. And I mean, that company was making millions of dollars a year. And he was making the lion's share of it. So it was just like, what the hell is going on here? But people are just greedy, inherently greedy. And I think they see something, they taste it, and they're like, I could figure this out cheaper. Once you show them it's real, it's very easy for them to think, I can do this myself.
Do you think, interesting, do you think all people are greedy? Most people are greedy? Some people are greedy?
I think that the Andrew Bustamante podcast that we watched the other day, he did a good job of explaining it. I think he was right in saying that all people are at some level selfish. Because if you strip away all the luxuries, you're going to look after yourself first and your family. And that's why he did what he did. He was in a spot where he wanted to take care of his family and he didn't have the money. And that's his excuse. That's his rationale. That's his logic. But nobody else mattered but him and his family, because most humans, if not all, are inherently selfish when boiled down to the absolute limits.
So it's funny because I thought a lot about that podcast we watched together, you know, here at Brady's wonderful studio. And I actually, I fundamentally disagree. So I agree actually that people are selfish. It's the definition of selfish that I think is important to understand. So to me, there's a big difference between someone being selfish and someone being self-involved, thinking the world's all about them, right? Because to me, there's no better feeling to me than being helpful.
Agreed.
Being useful.
Agreed.
And by the way, that's helpful and useful to other people, not myself. Now, if being helpful to other people made me feel shitty, I wouldn't do it, right? I think because I'm a fundamentally decent human being, when I'm helpful to other people and they're grateful, I feel good. Is that being selfish? I would argue it is. Like, I am being selfish, but I'm doing good in the world. I think that there are people that I think the person who's, I hate to use the word evil because I feel like evil requires a level of free will that I don't quite believe in. To me, I think more about good and bad. So I think people that are good feel good themselves when they do good for the world.
Absolutely.
People that are bad can feel good when they do bad in the world. You know, I know people that love getting over on people. I think that is a fundamentally bad person.
Agreed.
But I think there are good people. I know I like to think I am. I know I've met other people that have gone out of the way for me, I see them with my own two eyes go out of the way for other people. And while they might receive someone's gratitude, they don't have an ulterior motive.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I don't think, but I think they also have their basic needs met.
So the different thing. So the other thing I completely agree with is people in desperate situations are completely unpredictable.
Absolutely.
And you probably should assume the worst.
Yeah. And I've experienced the worst time and time again from that. So I agree with what you're saying, though. There are fundamentally good and bad people. And
so don't go into business with people that are desperate.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a fact. I mean, that guy, I loaned him $100,000 to get the company started, and we ended up getting it done. But the $100,000 was paying his personal bills.
Right.
It was him not going broke while we stood it up. And it wasn't like the business needed money. I did it all myself. And I think, though, that most people find ways to justify their actions so that they're not the villain in their own story.
Well, Bustamante did make that point, which is nobody thinks they're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's true. But I also think, I had a mentor once, she said something really wise, and I've never heard anyone else say this, which is that the truth is always known at some level. Like when you've been shitty, I think you know you've been shitty. Sometimes it's unconscious. Like you'll feel bad about something and you won't quite know why, but the reason why is because you didn't behave well.
Yeah.
You know? And like when I heard Bustamante talk about the fact that the CIA's #1 selection criteria is being morally flexible, I was like, and he kind of said it about himself. He basically said, I think he kind of said he's a sociopath, effectively. Right? He kind of said that.
He said he has
about himself.
APSD. But the morally flexible thing is interesting because I think a lot of humans, especially entrepreneurs, are to an extent. Like I've seen a lot of people do things that they say one thing and do a totally different thing. And it's just the way that they operate.
I feel like that's just dishonest. I mean,
Agreed.
you can call it morally flexible,
100%.
right?
No, it is. It's
Yeah.
dishonest. It's dishonest
I
to
feel
others
like-
and to yourself.
Well, I feel like religion's a lot that way too. Like I was on another podcast and I was like, I feel like a lot of people cloak themselves in religion.
Oh, yeah.
Because they, I can't be a bad person. Look
I'm
how
a
religious
Christian.
I am.
Yeah. No, I always tell people the people that tell you how good they are usually the worst people. And the people that tell you how religious they are at the beginning of a conversation are always the people not to trust.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, depends on your religion, but a lot of people, especially in Christianity and Catholicism, will be like, no, I'm good. I'm going to heaven no matter what because I believe in Jesus.
Right.
Or I apologize on Sunday, so we're good. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't give you the license to be a bad person 6 days a week. That's not what the religion's about. And they use religion as a mask. And I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a guy out in Nevada who I won't even give the credibility to, but a real estate guy who's Jesus this, Jesus that, Jesus this, and just preys on people. And it's a huge thing. And a lot of people that find religion are usually lost. A lot of people. And
I think that's fair.
I've studied a lot of religions, and it gives them something to believe in, which creates comfort. And this is, science has shown this. People that believe in religion, that believe in something, are more comfortable.
Right.
Because they don't have to worry about the unknowns because they just have to believe. And it gives them the ability to just be like, oh yeah, that's just God. Oh yeah, God did that. He probably wants something better for me. It's like, oh, you broke every bone in your body and you can't move and God wanted that so something better could happen.
Right.
That tracks. And you were a really good person and you did everything right and you were an amazing human being. Yeah. God probably just wanted to teach you a lesson for something. Like, just doesn't really track to me. I'm not anti-religion by any means, but I think that a lot of people try to use religion as an excuse, as a mask, as a way to deceive others, and as a way to cover up their own bad actions. I mean, I know tons of Christian people that, will cheat on their wives, take off their ring at conferences, and that's a big no-no for me.
Yeah.
If somebody takes their ring off at a conference, I will never work with them. I don't care how much money.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a big distinction between, let's call it faith and spirituality and religion.
Absolutely.
Religion's the organization part, I think, has got real challenges for sure. Well, so you're still super young. Where do you want to take what you're doing professionally? Do you think 5, 10, 20 years down the road, or are you thinking, hey, let me just worry about these next couple of years and, shit's changing all the time, who knows? How do you think about it?
I feel like I grew up really poor, and then I was normal,
Right.
and then I lived in a car, and then I made some money, and then I made a lot of money, and then I made a lot of money. And when I had the point where on paper net worth was over 300, I called my therapist and was like, dude, I could become a billionaire in the next couple of years at this rate. And he was like, yeah, it's amazing. And I was like, no, it's terrible because I'm not happy.
Right.
Which means if I have more money, I'm not going to be happy either. Like buying a Bugatti to make myself happy for a week because I felt lonely in that time or felt without fulfillment or I didn't have purpose or I wasn't doing anything meaningful to make an impact because I'd already built the business and it was already successful. I was working 2 hours a week. I would be depressed and I'd be like, oh, I'll just take a jet to LA and spend 50 grand on clothes. And then I'd feel good for a week while I wore them. And then I would feel bad 2 weeks later. And then I would go buy another car. And then I would trade a car so I could get another dopamine hit. And when I realized that and then had so much taken from me without really any good reason, I realized I didn't need it to begin with. Because having 5 houses was just a way to go somewhere else when I wasn't happy where I was. And I found that I wasn't happy because I wasn't doing things that were fulfilling and that gave me happiness. Things like helping people. So the reason I've made that shift is more so a permanent one, because I could go and build something very similar, and I might, who knows? I might wake up one day and be like, I'd like to do what I did already. I'm going to go do that thing again, or I'm going to do something different or something similar. And maybe I am doing that in the background right now and no one even knows it.
Right.
But it's not for the money. It's mostly just to do it. The money is just a thing. And once you have enough, you have enough. You don't need to fly private. You don't need 11 cars. You don't need 5 houses. You know, to me, what I need in this chapter of my life, travel the world, wife, kids. And I've got a skill set where I'll never be broke again. So I can just continue to do whatever the hell I want. But what I want happens to be helping people. And in the background, I'm a creator. I like building. So I'm going to keep building. I'll keep building tech projects, keep doing cool, fun stuff, keep making other people money, keep making, whatever it is that I want to create. I'll just keep doing. But there isn't really a plan. The plan is I'm 33 and I see all my friends having kids. And like, that's the next thing that I want to accomplish. And it's not something I can just buy. I mean, I could, but that'd be terrible. Don't buy children. I was referring to eggs.
Well, so I didn't know if you were talking mail order bride. I didn't know where you were going with that.
I don't speak Russian.
Let's pivot to that. So just from hearing your stories, you've obviously had girlfriends throughout the years, some better than others, perhaps, I'm sure. You know, obviously in order to have kids, got to start with definitely works better if you find the woman first.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you navigate that, having had, significant measure of success and being young? Like, I would imagine that makes it very challenging in a lot of respects.
So what I've found, and it's unfortunate, it's the reality, and I used to toss around the idea of like, I'll go get a shitty apartment or condo and get a normal car and just pretend to be normal. But it's like, okay, then you Google me and what?
Right.
That's not going to work. I give them a fake name, then who did they fall in love with if they did fall in love?
Right.
So I've come to realize that most women are attracted to nice shit. It's just a thing. Like, lifestyle is important. Security and safety are important. A provider is important. So there are attractive qualities. I'm really good at this point at weeding out the wrong ones. The biggest problem that I find in dating today, and fucking lucky people that are already married, the world of dating is so incestuous. You know somebody that knows somebody that hooked up with that person. Right. They have a horror story. They know somebody that you hooked up with. They have a horror story, or they have a story they want to make up, or that person still wants to be with you, so they say a negative thing, whatever it might be. But the dating world, you have so many options now. Like, I can pull up my phone and have 20 options. That's crazy. Like, I can just pull up my phone. You used to have to go meet people.
Right.
And I only meet people through either the internet, events, which I barely go to because it's hard to get me out of my house, or through friends. And to think, like, there are dating apps. I don't even use them, right? But there are dating apps where you can just have infinite options.
Right.
And if I wanted to immediately get laid for the rest of my life, all I have to do is go on social media and post, or rather, I could do it on social media or a dating app. Here's my life. Here's me on a jet. Here's me in a car. Here's me in a penthouse. Here's my beautiful house. Here's me snowboarding. Here's me doing this. If I just post my life, there's a bottomless pit of people that are like, I would love that life, but those are not people that you want to be with. And the problem is, a lot of the people that you would want to be with at my age, at 33, are largely either taken or they're career driven. And career driven people are hard to date because they have a different schedule. And when you don't have a similar schedule, it's messy. Like, I had a friend of mine that was like, oh, you got to meet my girlfriend. She's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And she tells me, like, yeah, you should go on a date with her, hit her up. I hit her up, and the girl's like, yeah, I work from 4 a.m. to like 5 p.m. And then I go to bed at 8:30. I'm like, yeah, I wake up at 11 or whenever my body tells me to. And then I work till I don't feel like working anymore. And I go to sleep at like 2 in the morning.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
And there's just so much difficulty navigating dating because you have so many people that just want your stuff. And you can't hide this stuff at a point. And once the stuff becomes unhideable, you just have to be like, I accept that most of these dates are going to suck. And they're not going to suck because they're bad people. They're going to suck because they're not going to be a compatibility fit. They're going to be, oh yeah, I would happily settle down with you fit. And there are tons of women that are like, oh my God, successful guy, not ugly, funny, good, nice dude, cool, awesome, great, really smart. Oh my God, great genetics, cool, let's do that. But that's not what you want. That's literally the definition of settling. Like, not settling down, but settling. So you have to navigate all of those while trying to find good people amidst people that want all your shit.
Well, so I definitely, look, I literally swore I would never get married a second time. Then I got married a second time. and partly because like there's never been a worse time I think in human history to be single. It's really hard because there's so many inefficiencies built into the right. Inefficiencies is the wrong word, but where things just don't. The supply and demand curve is all messed up.
Oh yeah.
I do think my experience with women that are interested in stuff that are, let me say it this way, I would argue these are basically the same thing in reverse. A guy who's just interested in a woman for her looks, like she literally doesn't necessarily need to speak, English.
We know a lot of guys.
Yeah, that where hotness is enough, and a woman where money is enough, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
Right. Clearly, that's a bad fit. I think though that most men are how I am, which is it's a prerequisite that I find my partner attractive.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, of course.
Like yes, you have to be attractive, and I always tell my wife, your looks are the easiest part of you to replace.
100%.
Right? And so, if it weren't for the looks, I wouldn't be interested. But if it was just the looks, I also wouldn't be interested. It's all the other aspects, and I would argue the same thing is true for a guy who's a good provider, which is why would a high-value woman be interested in a guy who's not a decent provider? That also shouldn't be enough. My money should be the easiest part of me to replace.
Right.
The fact that I'm not an asshole, treat people well, and fair-minded, good communicator, those should be the reasons that I'm hard to replace. I feel like if you look at it that way, and also I operated when I was single and dating a lot, I operated on the assumption, kind of like you did, which is something like 99% of the women are not going to be a good match for me. Might be based on physical aspects, might be based on, don't have a growth mindset, whatever.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be sexual chemistry.
Could be, yeah. Sometimes there was this one girl I went out with. She was really hot, really smart, really cool. Everything was amazing. I think if we had children, they would have like 9 legs because we genetically, like, she, even like fresh out of the shower, smelled terrible. I can't even explain it. I cannot to this day explain it, other than I think we would have had like 6-legged kids. Yeah, anyway.
No, it's 100% a thing. I mean, you meet women where you're like, oh, you're perfect, but your breath is terrible, and if I go anywhere near you, I want to kill myself. Like, it's like, wow, everything else was boxes checked, or it's always looking for one thing. My grandfather on his deathbed, the day before he died, he said, he was like half lucid. He was going in and out of consciousness. And he wakes up, he goes, Brandon? I'm like, what's up? And he goes, there's more to life than sex, you dirty bastard. And I was like, the fuck did that come from, dude? And
Please tell me those weren't his final words to you.
No, not final. Not final, but damn close, dude. That was one of
Okay.
the last 3 lucid conversations we had. And I reflected on that, and I was like, yeah, I mean, sex, statistically is at most 4% of the time you spend with a partner. And then you've got
At
all
most.
at most. I mean, it starts off that way, and then it decreases, and then it comes back and decreases. It's waves.
Yeah.
But, if it's 1% of the time is sex, you got to really like the person the other 99.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've never picked partners specifically because they were good in bed, although you've stayed with them sometimes longer than you should have because of that.
Right.
I think all men have been guilty of that at a time.
I think so.
But, there's conversational chemistry, kissing chemistry, sexual chemistry. Those are the 3 markers I usually look for. Try to knock them out as quick as I can. And then I try to take girls on a trip or go somewhere mutual that is not either of our homes as quickly as possible. It doesn't have to be like an exotic vacation. It could be literally like a staycation in some other city.
Right.
But when things don't go your way, you start to see who people are. Sure. And nothing on a vacation ever goes your way.
Yeah.
Like you go on a trip, something always goes wrong. The airport sucks. Flight's delayed. Whatever it is. How people handle those things.
You're totally right about that. You're 100% right about that. And seeing people that are in a shitty mood and they can't get out of the shitty mood, like run from that as fast as you can.
Dude, I dated a girl earlier this year. She was awesome. So fun, so great. Every box checked, complained all day.
Right.
Like had a business, made money, complained all day. Anytime I was with her, complained all day. She went away for a month. I was out of town also. We get back together. First date. We hadn't seen each other. We split up, whatever. First date. We go to hang out, complain the entire time. And I'm just like, God, if you just didn't do that, maybe do something you like to do instead of complaining about work to me all day, because I also work.
Right.
But I'm not complaining about my work to you. And it's like there's always just some little thing. And once in a while, you find a girl and you're like, oh my God, all the boxes are checked. And then still something can go wrong.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, it's I think that I know it's hard to do, or easy to say and hard to do, which is I think all relationships you should be completely outcome independent, which I think people equate that to not caring, which is not true at all. I love my wife. I love our relationship. For as long as she's happy and satisfied in the relationship. The moment that she, and I don't mean the moment like I left, some clothes on the floor, we're done. No, but I'm like, the moment that she's not happy and satisfied in the relationship, she should choose to not be in the relationship.
Yep.
I feel that's true. But because of that, we are always both choosing each other as opposed to the inertia of, well, I've been together for a long time. I don't want to start over. I have to meet somebody else.
Yeah.
Like,
on the topic of choice, though, I had a really toxic relationship last year that was filled with the worst experiences of my life, actually. It was the worst I've ever been treated and allowed myself to be treated. Beautiful girl, one of the smartest women I've ever met, one of the most manipulative women. I think maybe the most manipulative woman I've ever met. And the relationship was terrible when it was terrible. But when it was good, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And she said something to me early on, and it was, marriage is a choice. And I was like, yeah, obviously. And she's like, no, literally every day marriage is a choice, because you're going to have days where you're not going to be happy. You're going to have days where you're going to want to be like, screw this, I have other options. You have to choose that person. And you choose that person for the reasons that you get together. And I was like, that was a really well distilled breakdown. And I've regurgitated that plenty of times. It's actually the only good thing I took from that relationship.
Well, I will tell you, manipulation it's actually it's probably in the top 5 reasons after swearing I'd never get married again, I married my wife, who you're going to meet at dinner, by the way, that she does not have a manipulative bone in her body. And that's such a rare thing among women. I hate to generalize.
Yeah.
But not one time in the almost 10 years we've been together has she ever tried to manipulate me. We just have honest conversations about what her wants and needs are, what my wants or needs are, and you can avoid most of the headaches.
Yeah. So you have been very successful yourself. To become very successful, you have to be good at moving people, getting people to do things, getting people to believe in causes, getting people to buy businesses, getting people to buy into products, services, whatever it might be. That takes a level of manipulative capability.
I would argue differently.
You don't think so?
No, I think it requires me to be persuasive.
Okay.
So, and the way I distinguish it is, if I'm being manipulative, I'm trying to get you to do something against your interest.
Not always. Sometimes it could be manipulating somebody to do something in their best interest.
Again, I always put that in the persuasion category.
Sure. So let's say you may be very persuasive.
Sure.
So if you're very persuasive, there are strong odds in your relationship. If you wanted to, you could probably
strong odds.
Strong odds.
Like, strong odds.
Yeah, very significant odds that if you wanted something, you could probably get your wife to do what you want because you're a persuasive person.
Mm-hmm.
In her interest, not in her best interest, whatever it might be, you probably could. I've always set a rule where it's like, I will never try to control, because I'm good at controlling things. I'll never try to control a romantic partner or anybody that I care about, really. My friends, family, romantic partners, people I'm just getting to know. It's just not the right thing to do, because it's not a business transaction where there's an outcome and then it's over. It's something where I actually have to live with this person for the rest of my life, or in my mind, I have to live with whatever I did with that person. So I've always tried to keep manipulation, persuasion, any element of control out and let people independently be who they are. And I'm curious how you've balanced that, because I don't ask this question to a lot of people, because not a lot of people have achieved the level of success that you have. So I'm just curious your thought.
Well, you can ask my wife from her point of view at dinner, but I'll give you my point of view. So we actually have a rule that she, tongue-in-cheek, gives me a hard time, that I have occasionally asked her to violate this rule that we came up with, which was that we really, for the most part, don't ask each other to do something that the other person doesn't want to do. So let's say she really wants to go see her family over Thanksgiving and I don't want to go. She can ask me and I can politely decline, and vice versa, right? And sometimes I'll ask her to go out to business events and she won't want to go. And there have been plenty of times where she said, I'm not interested in going, and I never pressure her to do so, even if I could persuade her. I choose not to. And so it's an absolute conscious choice. There are many times where I could have persuaded my wife to do something that I knew she probably didn't want to do, and I never do that.
Yeah, I think it's important not to. It protects the sanctity of the relationship.
And that's the other thing too. Like, I don't try to control my wife at all.
Yeah.
Zero. And vice versa. We've never been a time where she said, I don't want you to go out and do that. I don't want you to go out with those people. I don't want you to do this. Never, not one time, and vice versa. I might say, look, here's my concern about that.
Yeah.
But hey, at the end of the day, you do you.
Yeah, I've always been the same way. This doesn't make me comfortable, but it's your decision. It's your life.
Yeah. Well, so, Brandon, I can't thank you enough for coming on, telling your story. Where can people find you? And about what you're up to in any given moment.
At Bowsky on social media, and then I've got a Discord where I do the free advice calls every Thursday. It's discord.gg/Bowsky. And I'm highly responsive to literally anyone. That's one of my things. I pride myself in always texting back quickly, replying quickly.
I'm gonna jump on the Discord. I think
it's really fun, man. And
yeah.
you know, sometimes guests will come on like
I say if you want me to come on as a guest speaker, I'd love to.
It's never planned.
Okay.
And sometimes it's 200 people, sometimes it's 30 people, but it's just every Thursday and we just hang out. It's also a lot of like people that have followed me for 5+ years that I didn't even know, or like friends from 10 years ago. It's like random people come on. But sometimes you have people that have, you know, multi 9-figure businesses. Sometimes you have people that have, you know, 8-figure businesses trying to figure it out. And sometimes you'll have people that'll come in and drop a bunch of knowledge themselves just to hang out. And it's a lot of fun. So I would love to have you on, man.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, Brandon, thank you again for sharing your story.
Yeah. Dude, thank you for having me.